Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's all fantastic. Last week, we talked a good bit about perfectionism. Well, for the last 5 years, we've been talking about it. But last week, specifically, I had a little discussion about how one of my favorite people on YouTube, Jimmy DiResta, said something to the effect of perfectionists use perfectionism as an excuse to avoid conflict. When he said it, it really hit home. It was like, damn, that stings, right? Because it's the truth. Like, I am an avoider. I always have been an avoider. And I've spent a lot of my life procrastinating to the very end because I was avoiding the potential outcome or the conflict of the potential outcome, regardless of what the outcome actually is. Usually the outcome is fine, and all of that conflict avoidance was wasted energy. And it's a problem that I've battled my entire life. But so the other day I had a conversation at work about a new feature that we need to add to a piece of software that we currently have. We have a piece of software that we designed internally to track who's in and out of our building. It's really cool. It works really well. And it also lets us say, hey, I'm working remote today, or I'm at a conference today, or I'm in a meeting, or whatever. And you can manually set that stuff. But very few people actually go to that app and do that. There's other ways of doing it. We have Slack integration. And then we have our ticketing system, which is all the employees throughout the building use our ticketing system. It's again, something we've produced in-house. And so we added a little way for the ticketing system to update things over there. And it's not an API. It's just straight up messing with the database. Because it's internal, we can do that. I can just query the database and then put something over there and it works. But that's not the correct way to do things. The correct way to do things is have what's called an application programming interface, which is an API. And it's basically a set of rules that says, I have this application. If you want to get some information or send me information, here's the rules for how to do that. And so your application can write a message, and then my application will take that message, do what it wants, and then send you back a reply. That's what an actual API is supposed to do. But it's more complicated than that, because if I just leave that open, if I say, here is the command that you use to ask me a question, ask my application a question, anybody can ask it questions. And if somebody is nefarious and attempts to figure out, gain information from the response, they could tailor their questions to be more and more intrusive until they've breached the app and they can do whatever they want. And so there's a lot of layers to it. So my teammate who started the research on how to do this, or how to implement this between these two pieces of software, he came up with this idea. Here's the thing, we're going to implement this and that'll do the thing. And I was like, no, that won't do the thing. I mean, that will do what you're saying, but that's not secure at all. Usually these things are handled with what's called keys. And keys are just like random strings of characters, and they're big. And I have a key that I call my public key, which is the key that I send to you. And then there's a private key, and those keys have to match mathematically, or however they're generated. Usually they match mathematically. It can just be, I give you what's called a token, and that token is a huge unguessable string, and then you have to pass it back to me. So I know it's you sending me a message. It's your signature, right? What he was going to do was just have one signature for the entire application to message this other application, which, it's an internal app. It's probably fine. But me being me, I said no, because if all I need is that one signature, and I send that signature with all of my requests, all I have to do, I can change my request to, I can change my name to whoever it might be. I can guess at their ID, and I can start updating other people, which I shouldn't be able to do. And it becomes a problem. Okay, that's enough programming talk. I don't want to get it. This isn't really about the programming. This is about differentiating between that perfectionist mind that says, I'm going to turn this board into a jewelry box, and it's going to take me 8 months because I'm going to I'm going to obsess over the details to a point that I'll never actually get it done. That's perfectionism. But my engineer brain says we can't even start on this box until we fully understand the scope. That's what's happening at this work project. We can't just willy-nilly throw this out there, because this application does and will affect, or will be accessible in the future to outside customers. And I can't have outside customers having an open pipeline. That's not okay. It's like giving them a lockpick, saying, here, just use this because I lost the key. That's not how this works. So the engineer says I have to know everything up front. And what I've realized is those are two extremely similar frames of mind. And they're also probably the reason why I'm good at programming. I can do that job. But writing a book, I did it. I wrote 50,000 words. It's horrific because I didn't know anything up front. But the part of me that wants to write the book is the part of me that wants to have it itemized to the nth degree, to know all of the details before I even start, because I don't want to start something that's going to end up being a disaster. Case in point, though, I wrote a book and it is a disaster because I didn't do that, and it's okay. There's got to be a way to do that more often. My engineer brain says I can't do this until I have all of the knowledge. I can't start because that's insecure, that's a problem. And if I completely write we're talking about work now, not a hobby. At work, if I spend the next 2 weeks of my time, the next 80 hours writing this protocol so that these two applications can talk to each other, I can't have that be wrong, and now I have to spend another 80 hours unwriting it and rewriting it again because it was false. I have to be able to say, this is going to take me 20 hours, and that's what it takes. And in order to do that, I have to know all of those details. I have to be a perfectionist. I have to pick out all of the points of failure before I even start, or else I'm just wasting time. If it was a hobby project, sure. You make it and you try it and you see what happens, and then you correct, and then eventually that becomes, sort of personalized institutional knowledge. It becomes your way of doing it the correct way so that you can implement that quickly. And, if a customer asks for a product that has that particular feature, you can say, yeah, I can do that for you, and this is how many hours it's going to take. But for this particular instance, I don't know how many hours it's going to take because we haven't figured out the full scope of it yet. The point is, while the perfectionism is a very, very big crutch for me here in this shop, making things has been, I've struggled really hard because that perfectionist says, no, you can't make it like that. That's not going to last. That's not going to be correct. While that sucks here, it's a really good problem to have in the software development field. Like, you really have to know the scope of what you're doing before you make something that's blatantly, broken from the start or insecure, and you're not even aware of it. That's even worse. So, what do you think? Perfectionism or engineer brain? Is there a difference, or am I just crazy? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is innervate. It is a transitive verb meaning to rob a person, organization, a place, or thing of its energy, strength, and vitality. Greenhouse gases innervate the protective ozone layer surrounding the Earth. Innervate. E-N-E-R-V-A-T-E. That's interesting. I didn't know it had a negative connotation. I always thought innervate was a good thing. I don't know why I thought that way. Invigorate, maybe? I don't know. For some reason, my brain thought that was a positive word.